Having recorded the macro format currency, we often want to look at the code behind the macro. In order to do this, I'm going to ask you to click the Macros button on the Developers tab. We looked earlier at the Run button and at the Options button. Let's now look at the Edit button. When I click the Edit button, I'm actually put into the Visual Basic Editor. The Visual Basic Editor, or VBA, is where you go to edit your code, which basically means your code is written in a language called Visual Basic for Applications, or VBA. And the VBA is typically made of 3 parts. What you see here, this big window here, is called the code window, and that's where you can actually see your code, and in this particular case it's the format currency code. What you then see on this side are 2 little windows. One is the Properties window and one is called the Project Explorer. Now that's assuming, that's making a big assumption you can see them. Let's say, for example, that you can't see them all. Well, what you can do is you can close the Properties window with this little X, and now it's gone. You can also close the Project Explorer with this little X, and now it's gone. And all I'm left with is actually the code window. If you wish to bring back the Project Explorer, then I would simply go to View and choose Project Explorer. Notice also it mentions the shortcut key is Ctrl-R. If I click this option, I have my Project Explorer back. To bring back the properties, I could press the function key F4 or go to View and choose the Properties window. The Property window also sometimes likes to dominate, and so you can resize the Properties window just by dragging this mouse pointer up or down if it's an issue on your screen. I know on some of my screens it can be an issue. So we've got the code window, the Project Explorer, and the Properties window. Now what I want to do is have a look at this code. Basically a macro is often referred to as a procedure, a subprocedure, a routine, and a subroutine. A macro basically has a sub statement in blue and an end sub statement in blue. So these two are in pairs, always together. You'll never have one without the other without having a problem. You'll basically see that the name of the macro or code then follows the sub statement, and it's one word, and there's a couple of brackets, an open close bracket. Anything that has an apostrophe will appear green. The apostrophes are basically for comments, and any statements appear black, as you can see here. So this particular subprocedure really just does one thing. With whatever's selected, with the selection, make the number format $, comma every thousandth, and no decimal places. You can also add comments to your code. For example, it's good practice to add some comments regarding the purpose of the code. So I'm going to say that the purpose is to format selected cells to currency in 0 decimal places. You can also say things like any limitations or any constraints or any requirements. You can also mention if there's a shortcut key combination. And in this case, it's Ctrl-Shift-C. You can also claim who is the designer or the creator. And that would be typically your name. And when. And some people may even add details about how to contact that person. So I might even put my address, my email address. You can basically type as much as you like, as long as it's preceded by an apostrophe, which will automatically make it go green. Comments don't have to reside on their own lines, they can also share a line with a statement. They can't be at the beginning of the line for obvious reasons, because if I put my comment at the beginning of this line, it'll deactivate this particular statement. So after the statement, I can put a comment that this actually applies currency and 0 decimal places. And you see it goes green as soon as I press the down arrow. So comments are preceded with an apostrophe automatically appear green. They can be on their own line or they can actually share a line with the statement as long as they're to the right of the statement. Now what you can do is you can also alter the code, and you can see what that does when you run the code or the macro. Let's say, for instance, I alter this and I decide that I want 0.0. Now if I run this macro, I should now get 1 decimal place. So I'm going to go back to Excel. I'm going to select some cells, maybe these ones here, and I'll press Ctrl-Shift-C. It automatically formats the selected cells into currency with a comma every thousandth and 1 decimal place. I can go back and alter the code again, and maybe put 2 zeros after the full stop. If I go back to my code, highlight a range, and press Ctrl-Shift-C, it automatically applies 2 decimal places. If I go back to my code and change it back to 0 decimal places, I can highlight 1 or more cells, press Ctrl-Shift-C, and it automatically formats it to currency and 0 decimal places. So you can easily alter your code and then test it. Also, it's important to save regularly. If I click this Save button, it saves my Excel file Chapter 1, or if I happen to be in the VBA and click this Save button, it'll still save Chapter 1. So you can use either Save buttons and it'll automatically save your file. Notice also, as you can see there, Control-S is the shortcut key for save.